Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Sweet 16 in Chicago, we're breaking down the plays that got us there and the plays that are going to get us through the next round. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the T. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power T Talk. Well, Zach, I think just as we predicted all season long, sitting here ready for the Sweet 16 in a game that we lost on the offensive glass by a relatively significant margin, and we hit more threes than our opponent. Sometimes you just nail it throughout the season when you're doing this analysis. Sometimes you just have a feeling, and I think all year this is exactly what we expected, with no momentum in any other direction at all.
I wrote about a week and a half ago after the Vanderbilt loss, not as scathing, I wouldn't call it scathing, but an upset post about the roster construction that I feel was correct at the time and completely fair. That I was like, this was bad roster construction, and I put roster construction is what doomed this team. And now I look like an idiot because they played two excellent games of basketball over the weekend. I would say they probably played 72 excellent minutes. The 5 minutes to start Miami, Ohio, and then the 7-minute to 4-minute mark against Virginia where they turned it over like 4 times. Other than that, they've been fantastic. They played great. And it's funny because there's been a little pushback over the last 10 years or so about how random the tournament is. And it is. It is completely random. And people have been trying to say, like, hey, you can't let March affect the overall season, right? If you have a great regular season, it's around a 32 loss. You shouldn't let that overrule. And yet, I would rather have 11 losses through the SEC tournament and make the Sweet 16 than have 5 losses and not make the Sweet 16. I'd rather be Tennessee than Florida right now.
100%. 100%. And like when you said that, Florida popped into my head right away of like, I could totally see you're a Florida fan and it's like it kind of slips away from you and then you kind of like just fall asleep defensively and somebody drills one. It's like, well, that's what we're doing here. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I agree in the sense of like, I'm certainly not one. I'm thinking about MLB, kind of the same thing where it's like, you can't let kind of the randomness of the playoff completely change how you think about this stuff. But it's also like, well, it can definitely change your satisfaction with the season though. Like you can think about both things. You can think about how you felt overall, but how you feel about the ending because, and I'm absolutely one that if we had lost one of these first 2 games, then I would be like, well, it is what it is. March is random, admittedly. But it's also like, well, that's what we're doing here. And so we're one of the final 16. And I was thinking about us being in the Sweet 16. And yeah, of course, the silliness of course, we always expected this to happen. But I do think that you and I both did think that if we played well, we were top 20 range of the country. It was just that we hadn't done that pretty consistently. And so I don't know if it was the roster construction actually was what benefited us, but I did have a couple moments of general team toughness and readiness. I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I think Rick Barnes might be a pretty good basketball coach. Like, he might have his guys ready to play.
Rick's had 2 fantastic defensive game plans. When you look at the numbers, what they've done the last 2 games against Miami, Ohio, which is one of the better offenses in the country, and then Virginia, which was also a fantastic offense. It was kind of, when I did the solo pod to preview Virginia, it was a little daunting. I was like, this is a really good offensive team. Like, you're talking a legitimate top 30 3-point team in the country, and then they rebound the ball in top 10 in the country. That's daunting task when you actually think about that and having a, 48-hour turnaround for Tennessee. Like, it's a great job by the staff. They prepared them. They came out ready to play in both games. And I would also say something Tennessee has not had is an on-ball creator. We love Dalton. We love Chaz. We love Zakai. None of those guys could go super late in the shot clock with the ball at the top 30 feet out and make something happen. Just wasn't their strengths. To have Jacoby, who hit a just unbelievable, I thought it was going to be the dagger. Turned out it wasn't. Unbelievable 28-footer and a shot clock. He had a couple of those against Virginia and made a couple really nice plays. Has kind of led them more to being a better March team than in the past because they have that. And it's like if Tennessee didn't get a good shot in the first 20 seconds of the shot clock in a March, it's like, man, they're in trouble. But then they get Jacoby, and then they have Estrella they can kind of throw
Estrella's
it
a
to,
big one.
and Nate can get to the free throw line. So it's a little bit better offensively built for March, even though they haven't been as efficient. And their defense has been really good. It hasn't been perfect. The Ritter had a pretty good game on Sunday, but overall, it's been a really solid defensive performance. And Virginia turned out to be a good matchup for him, too. I would rather take my chances against Virginia than, a couple of the other 3 seeds like Iowa State, who we're going to talk about here later. But I was really proud of the team. Really tough loss against Vanderbilt to end the season, 2 of them actually, and then to come back out and be able to get Sweet 16 is really impressive.
You can see real togetherness, and I think we kind of always have that with Rick Barnes teams. But we might have our gripes about the roster construction. We might have our gripes about the offense lulls and things like that. But the combination of like the toughness and just like here's the dudes you're throwing your arms around to get this done really shows up. And again, it's still there even if we had lost earlier in March. But the fact that he has gotten us to the Sweet 16 the way he has, the fact that he's had success with like rosters that are somewhat pieced together and some guys that have been around and some guys that have more experience in the program. I just think it's no coincidence that these guys are like, listen, we're ready to stand up to anything. There were a couple of Virginia, and like you said, they're a good offensive team. There were a couple of moments where they really stressed Okpara out. Like they really had him in spots and in motions and in areas that he just doesn't excel in defensively. To the moments that he had for him to be, I think, one of our strongest defenders, certainly, that was when I was like, oh, they might have us here. Like when DeRitter was just getting him in every spot that he was not able to affect either under the basket or on him, I was like, they've really figured something out here. But they cooled off a little bit, and our team kind of kept their wits about them. Just that tick better than they did in like the Kentucky games. They just held the fort a little bit better than they did in those games this season that because I almost texted you at one point. I almost said they're going to do it, aren't they? Just like we had the feeling in the Kentucky games. Then I was like, you know what? I'm not about to inject negativity. Let's just let a game play out. And they got some water out of the boat and held on.
Okpara might have made him some money over the weekend with how well he played the perimeter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be an NBA first-round pick, but he might have got himself a spot in the G League, an Exhibit 10 contract, something like that, just as a side. The one other thing, too, you talked about Tennessee kind of struggling near the end. Are they going to do it again? They only turned the ball over 10 times.
It was that little stretch you were talking about, though, that 7 to 4 minute.
They had 9 in the second half.
Yep.
And Virginia pressed more than I thought they would. I know Virginia likes to press. I didn't really bring it up preview because I just thought, they'll just play straight man and maybe put a little ball pressure on Jacoby. They were pressing all game. And I think it was trying to wear Jacoby out. And Nate had a couple really bad moments. Jacoby on the inbound, turning the ball over after a timeout, just on an inbounds, absolutely will drive you insane. And we have to talk about who I think the actual MVP was. It was Bishop Boswell.
It was Bishop Boswell, man. I'm telling you.
9 assists, 0 turnovers. Tennessee only hit, 18 twos, 8 threes. So Tennessee hit 26 shots. Boswell assisted 9 of them.
He basically assisted a third of our baskets and also hit 4 threes.
He hit 4 threes. He played fantastic defense on Jakari White. Jakari White, didn't have a good game. He went 2 of 12. Jakari White
Yeah.
did. After he went 6 of 8 from 3 against Wright State, he was phenomenal defensively. He had that huge 3, hit a free throw late that was important. And to get that performance from your sophomore guard, who basically stopped shooting because he lost his
Yeah.
confidence, and hitting threes that they designed for him. They had 2 threes that he hit. They designed. They had a beautiful Spain screen to the corner I sent you that was unbelievable.
And Jacoby was running that stuff
design.
nicely too.
Jacoby was doing a great job setting everyone up and knowing when to attack and when to dish and reading the play. And Boswell hits that corner 3, and then he hit one on the wing that they designed for him too. To have him just kind of come out of, I mean, we know what he can do, right? Like we know the talent defensively, and he's had some moments and he can handle the ball a little bit. But to have that game from him just shows you what's crazy about March. You don't expect Bishop Boswell to go 4 of 9 from 3, and he did. And I'm sure Virginia will tell you, like, if Bishop Boswell takes 9 threes in this game, we're in great shape. That's exactly what we want. I'm sure Ryan Odom will tell you that, and he hit 4 of them. And that's sometimes how it is. And your guy, Jakari White, hit 2 out of 9. And that's that. There's the game right there.
Well, and I mean, Boswell has like a physical advantage over Jakari White, and he's not afraid to use his body. He got called for one foul that I think was just like good defense, but it is what it is. That's how he plays. And so it's going to happen sometimes. But he's just, not that this isn't necessarily his game, but like, and so I'm not trying to say, oh, if he had made all of them, he would have had 20. But he had other open ones that were so darn close. Like he was really close to going 6 for 9 from 3 and really having that game where we're like, oh man, he is just a problem right now. And I think the biggest thing was he did most of his damage in the first half, but he kept shooting the ball in the second half.
Yes.
And yeah, you don't want people to just be throwing up. He threw up a couple like bricks, whatever, but he kept shooting the ball instead of those actions no longer being viable and the ball kind of stopping with him or a turnover from it where he kind of gets double teamed in the corner. He just kept pulling, and that was what we needed. And then, again, this goes back to the kind of intangible Rick Barnes of it all. That dude's just game for anything. Like, he is the equivalent of, like, do you need me to go catch a pass across the middle on 3rd and 7? And he, I think, could literally do that if you asked him to, and then kind of figuratively do that with some of the stuff he does during a basketball game.
He did take a hit over the middle on that.
He really did. He like, maybe we should have like had him at tight end this year, not to bring up sore subjects, but I really just, he's just like, listen, maybe we're going to go down at some point, but we're going to go down swinging. And Jacoby is the same way. And those two guys being like, hey, bring it, I think helps Nate when Nate makes those mistakes or he kind of looks like a freshman here and there. And it's like, Nate, your job right now is to play through your mistakes and try to get to the damn free throw line because we've got the toughness part on lock. And it's not that Nate's not tough. It's just that his head's not always right there when he's trying to focus on scoring. And so they balance each other out in a really nice way when Boswell's hitting shots.
You brought up kind of the physicality of the Boswell call. I want to bring up a quick point. I have a serious problem when the game has been called one way for 32 minutes and then Virginia goes down 9 and Ryan Owen clearly is like, we have to play more physical or we're going to lose. And they play more physical and then the rules changed. There was a stretch where there were 4 straight defensive fouls on Virginia. And I shouldn't whine about a 25-11 free throw advantage, but it should be noted that was part of the reason Virginia got back in the game is they increased their physicality and the refs changed how they called the game.
They just like, there were those stretches of like, it's like, oh, Nate has someone climbing on his back in the lane. And they basically, for a 12-minute stretch, everything was incidental contact.
Well, and I assume they looked at the scoreboard wrong. They gave DeRitter 2 free throws.
Oh boy.
On a loose ball foul.
I don't think I even realized how crazy that was in the moment. I was like, that's when I texted you and said, do people know jump balls exist anymore? Like there's a mass of people and you're behind them and there's a tie up. That's why jump ball calls happen. I've seen a few times in the tournament that officials are behind a play and just guessing instead of any sort of clear view of it. And that one was like that times a million because it was like, okay, I mean, it was essentially a loose ball foul that turned into a shooting foul is the
It was
equivalent of
insane.
it.
And it was a bad loose ball call too.
I know, it was just absolutely wild. But again, that's one that they kept level. And I think I was doing my fair share of complaining, but I actually didn't see the team get too crazy. I think Barnes got really mad a couple of times, but the team was just like, all right, let's get in the huddle and let's figure it out. And I think everyone contributed to that. It wasn't just one guy. I'll also say, JP Estrella, thank you for just making some shots, man.
4-4.
He wasn't. It wasn't going crazy. It wasn't one of those where he gets in the 20s. But that little, like, I can't remember the timestamp, but that little, like, back down, not even a great shot turnaround that was just buckets. I was
Two
like,
guys coming
oh
on.
my
Yeah.
gosh, we needed that. And so, I mean, it's amazing what happens when you make shots in March, I guess. But there was some really good
hit 2 free
examples of
throws
that.
down the stretch as well. That was very important. I will say too, I thought Tennessee's defense was for about 36 minutes was fantastic. They held Virginia 15 and 34 from inside the arc and 12 and 35 from three. And DeRidder got a couple easy ones. And I think early in the game, they let Malik Thomas kind of get free as well. But they contested most of them. And one of the issues Tennessee's had this year, they've actually been pretty good defending the 3-point line all year. The problem's been their interior defense at times has been porous.
Slower,
Slower, rotations aren't great. I think Nate, I think, has a chance to be a really good defender. Just some freshman mistakes. The two bigs has not helped at times. In this game, they really shut it down. And again, I want to really stress how impressive Akpara was. Other than the two frees DeRidder got loose on.
I think those are sticking out of my mind a little bit more. Yeah.
Correct. Which really weren't on Akpara. I think one he wasn't even in for. He really made DeRidder work. Like DeRidder was having to take 6, 7, 8 dribbles to get a shot. And I thought that was really impressive. Even Estrella had a couple really good defenses, except that one Jakari White in the corner that I saw. I saw a white light flash before my eyes when it was 4-point game with 13 seconds. I'm thinking Rick's going to bring that up in the film session this week. But they really played a great game against Virginia. And I think because of the turnovers late, some of the fans might be like, oh, Tennessee actually didn't play that great. I thought Tennessee played an A game. I mentioned Miami, Ohio. I thought that was one of their 3 best games. This is, I think, one of the 4 best games they played this year. I really was impressed with how well Tennessee played. You even mentioned the offensive rebounds. They had 16. They still were actually below their season average. It was 36.4%. So it just shout out. Great game plan, great execution, really good job. Jalen Carey had a good game too. I have to shout him out. He gave 10 important points. Like they needed those 10 points. And defensively, he actually held his own. They did a great job just letting Jalen guard the center and then letting Akpara Estrella guard the 4. So overall, great job by the staff, great job by the players. And I think we need to shout out 4 straight Sweet 16s for this program. 5 out of 7. That is, I know we're not Kentucky and we're not Kansas and we're not blue blood. That's still impressive. Like, I don't care who you are.
That's a third of our all-time Sweet 16 appearances, I think.
Yes, I think
we're
they
really
had
close
7
to that.
before the 5 straight or something like that. So, or 5 out of 7. Like, so they make 7, within 7 years or whatever, and they make 5 within 7. Like, it's really impressive. And coaches really shine in March. Yeah. They really do, because of the lack of preparation between games. You don't get as much. You've got to really make more in-game adjustments than you normally do. They've really done a great job, other than, I would say, the Oregon State game from 2021. This decade, the coaching, I really can't have complaints about, like, March coaching, like at least in the NCAA tournament. And Rick's done a great job. Like, this is just, with getting this Sweet 16 with this team is really impressive.
I think that trying to think about how to phrase this. I don't necessarily think if you bow out in March in a weird way that it's like, let's write off this person's coaching ability. But I do think if you stand up to a challenge in March, it is a credit to the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not one to pile on, like, a Bill Self because of some weird exits and blah, 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 and, like, I think you can paint that picture. But I think I like to flip it the other way a little bit more, where it's not that Rick Barnes suddenly became, like, the greatest offensive designer in the world and found Boswell. It's like the general readiness of the team shows up in March, and that is a clear reflection of the coach. And, I mean, I'll say another example of that, and these are very different guys, but like Calipari now, but especially when he was at Kentucky, he would bring in these massive chunks of freshmen, and we would all get our yucks in at some ugly game early on. And then you would realize about halfway through conference play, like, oh, this is going to be a big problem. These guys are figuring it out. And then when you get into March and things like that, they are like ferocious. And so those teams that you just like, they're just 5% better, 5% better, 5% better, and they're like, bring it, is a really big part of March. And I think the personality of this team run through Jacoby and things like that is a big part of it. I also think it's a reflection on Barnes, how tough this team plays defensively, how intense they play defensively. And then you've got guys like, I mean, I look at Boswell and Jacoby. Those two were on the ball or chasing the ball around all game. They had 2 fouls between them. Boswell's was he got position on a guy and it wound up getting called a block. And, you know, if that's a Duke player in Krzyzewskiville, that's a charge. And then Gillespie's was I mean, he touched the guy, but the call at the end of the game that never, ever, ever gets called, where he just played defense and the refs had a quick whistle on it. The way that those two guys were game to play defensively, to have 2 fouls between them, and so you're not getting him in the bonus, you're not getting him in the double bonus, you're not getting these guys in foul trouble where you have to take the rhythm from the guards out of the game. That's just such a credit to Barnes. It's a credit to those guys, but it's such a credit to Barnes.
I think you could tell both stories. And you can be like, why does Rick only have 1 Final Four and 2 conference titles and 39 years of coaching? That seems like that's not a coincidence. And also be like, he has over 30 NCAA tournament wins. That puts him top 20 of all time. There's 2 sides to the story. You can say like, hey, okay, you know, maybe the offensive issues are legitimate, but also be like, this guy can game plan and prepare as well as anybody out there. And I would also say this. They beat 2 30-win teams. They're the first team ever to do it opening weekend. Beat 2 30-win teams in the round of 64 and round of 32. First time that's ever happened. And to take a team that blew 4 double-digit leads in the second half, and I know this didn't get the double digits, I don't believe. I think 9 was the most. And to be able to rally them when the Ritter hits that 3 to go up 1, and every Vol fan's thinking the same thing. This game's over.
Like, we're going to lose by 5 or 7 or whatever.
They're not going to make a comeback. Another point about the toughness, they didn't hit a field goal after that. It was all free throws because they attacked the paint. They inbounded the ball correctly, and Jacoby hit his 6 free throws to end and ice the game, and Nate hit the 2, and I think Boswell got the 1 out of 2 in there. So they go 9 of 10 in the free throw line to basically win that game. That's mental toughness. You know, that's something. How many times have we seen teams lose because they didn't hit their free throws in March? They went 9 to 10. Virginia can't come back. They played, other than that breakdown on White in the corner.
Yeah.
They really held their own defensively. They played great inbound defense. Dalen Hall literally just threw the ball right to Estrella because he was about to get a 5-second call. Like, they handled business, and the stuff that they did offensively, they've added a little bit, not much, just enough of a wrinkle to get a couple more easy buckets, get a couple of easy plays in, and it's really, really worked out for them.
Yeah, and I will say the rotation, well, maybe, I don't know if I'm just overanalyzing at this point, but the rotation looks a little bit different, as in it's not like the balance between Estrella and Carey is probably a little more correct in this game. And maybe even leaning a little more towards Estrella. And then like Gillespie and Boswell being able to be out there a ton and not get in foul trouble, and honestly same with Akpara, is really good. Nate playing a lot, but really that offense defense sub that we wound up getting in the pattern of. Like, he just did a very good job of staying the course. And I think he probably had some conversations with guys that said, like, get to the dang bucket. And then they stepped up and hit their free throws. They also, and this isn't to say, like, this isn't a commentary on these specific Virginia players or their coach or anything, but they made fewer mistakes than Virginia.
Yep,
Like, Virginia
absolutely.
had the technical foul from Lewis that was an incredibly stupid play. I don't care
It
if
was. It doesn't get called if it's in the air. It's not as big of a deal because it's one free throw. It should have been called though. It was so stupid. There was no point.
just
And
such a
Estrella
dumb
gave
play.
him. It was so dumb. Yes,
And
go ahead,
it's like Estrella is like not really someone you might want to mess with anyway, probably. and especially if Jalen Carey's roaming around anywhere close by. And so it's like, what are you doing? And so there's a massive mistake there. And then again, if they would have made the shots, it would have looked like a different story. But like, Jakari White had a drive to the bucket at the end of the game to kind of keep pulling the string on fouling and free throws. And instead of just going up strong, he tried to shoot like the craziest reverse layup that you've ever seen because he wanted to make the bucket and get back in the rhythm. And part of that is just trying to make a basketball play. But there were a couple of moments where they just like, they tried to do too much. And our guys were just like doing the most direct route possible, partially because that's how we have to play offense, but it worked. It's like,
Well, it was still 5, so White misses it, and it goes off Estrella.
yeah.
And Dalen Hall, a senior, literally throws it to him on the inbounds. Like, literally throws the ball to Estrella. So, bad. I mean, that gave them a chance. Tennessee just made fewer mistakes. You're 100% right. And it's kind of interesting because Tennessee kept making mistakes in these late games.
They really did. And so, do you have any final thoughts on Virginia? Or I didn't expect to be saying this, and that's not just me like I'm not being negative. I didn't expect to be saying this. Or are we moving on to the Sweet 16?
I think we're ready to talk about Iowa State because they are a damn good basketball team.
So every time we get to the Sweet 16, and I actually like this, you have these different sites, CBS Sports, et cetera, that do like the reseeding the tournament or re-ranking the tournament. I think that if we were doing that, Iowa State would be top 5, top 6, definitely.
With a caveat, which is if Jefferson's healthy, which I don't think he is.
Did he play?
No, he did not. So he has an ankle injury. He did not play. So if he was healthy, you would absolutely make the case they're a top 5 team in the country.
Because I think if I were ranking them, I mean, Florida's gone, which I think Michigan's. I'll say this, and then I'll set the stage for the game. I think Michigan's the best team left. We can talk more about that. I think Duke's probably second. They're slow starters. I think Arizona and Houston, I don't know. And then I think Illinois is finally playing up to more of their potential after being a little bit hit or miss throughout the season. But
Illinois had a really good weekend.
Yeah, when they're going, there's not a lot of stopping them when they're going right. And so we've got the Friday late slot for our game. And so we're taking on Iowa State. We're in Chicago. The start of that day is 7:35 p.m. Alabama, Michigan, the 4-1 matchup. And then we follow that game. So we're at like 10:10 at the earliest on Friday night. And so brew that second or third or fourth cup of coffee, whenever works best for you. And we are a very different type of game than Alabama, Michigan, but the 2-6 kind of breaking up some of the chalkiness of the bracket late Friday night after essentially a day of blue bloods before us. You've got St. John's with Patino, Duke, Michigan, Michigan State, and UConn all playing that day. And then you got Tennessee and Iowa State, 2 tough as nails teams, taking on just a rock fight, it seems like, in, I think, the United Center, maybe, in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we know about Iowa State? The injury's a big one, but what do we know in general about the way they play the game?
They are a fantastic basketball team with a core identity. I put that they remind me of the Seattle Seahawks defense, which is kind of gives you, I think, a good picture. They don't have a superstar level defender, but they're all a level below star. They just have 5, 7, 8 good defenders on the team, right? They don't have a weakness. They don't have a weak spot that you can attack. Jacoby's not going to be able to get a pick and roll pick and pop situation, get a switch, and automatically be like, oh, hey, there it is. Take that. Like, everyone can defend. They can play half court. They'll unleash full court. They're not afraid to trap you. So TJ Otzelberger, he's the coach at Iowa State. They're currently 5th in the country in defensive rating. Since he got hired in 2021, they have been top 13 defensive efficiency every year.
Oh, and like that's what like the other good defensive teams left are like Michigan, Arizona, Houston, Duke. Like they're in that crew with those really, really good teams.
Exactly. And they hit you in the mouth. And Otzelberger is like a college football defensive coordinator. He talks like one. You could just see him carrying a big dip in his mouth. Like, I don't know if he does, but you could just see that. He has this swagger to him, like a college defensive coordinator. They just turn you over. They're 4th in the country in defensive turnover rate. Relentless. They'll trap. They'll attack you. They switch their ball screen coverages. They're 8th in the country in steal percentage. They're 11th in non-steal turnover percentage. So it's not only are they going to take the ball, but they're going to force mistakes because they'll switch their coverages up on those ball screens. They will press you full court. They're going to play man. I wouldn't expect much zone. That's the one thing I will say. Otzelberger scouts so well. They scout the sets excellent. They really dictate the game with their defense. And the question is going to be for me is if Tennessee can generate enough in their half-court sets. Can they draw enough for Jacoby to get buckets, and can they get enough non-Jacoby buckets in order to win this game? Can they get a couple of easy looks? Can Boswell get some 3-point looks like they did? Can Estrella take advantage of what could be a size mismatch? Because with Jefferson out, they have moved Momcilovic to the 4, and he plays more like a 3. So Tennessee's going to play that 2 big lineup. Estrella's probably going to have a mismatch, or Akpara will. I would say they're probably going to put I honestly don't know, actually, because Momcilovic is like not a rebounder at all. So if you try and put him on Akpara, you probably get killed on the boards. So Tennessee's going to have to really get easy looks. They might have to even play through Estrella some. The other thing I will say, if Tennessee goes and pushes the pace a little bit, which they did against Virginia, they were not afraid. Iowa State's one of the best defensive transition teams in the country. If you make a mistake, not only will they take advantage of it, they feed off that. So if Tennessee pushes, they're going to have to make the right decision. They have to be crisp in their passing and spacing. And if you have a situation where it's turnover and then you turn over, you have to get back, because they don't push the pace very much, but they thrive off turning you over, converting in the bucket, and then picking up full court and doing it again.
That like almost like a counter break. It's not that they like run like an old Roy Williams team. It's just that like, if y'all are going to give us the ball, we're going to go.
They don't play zone. It's not a perfect example. It's a lot like Pitino's defensive strategy, though. Pitino's played a lot more man over the last about 10 or 15 years as 3-point shots expanded, but that's how I look at it.
I think about those Pitino Louisville teams with Sosa, yes. I think. Yeah.
Sosa, Russ Smith, that just picked you up full court and just made your life a living hell for 30 seconds. Like, that's what they do. And again, they don't have one classic assault like Thompson twin type defender where you're like, oh man, that guy's gonna absolutely put you in the torture chamber. But everyone defends, all of them. There's not one bad defender on this team.
Do they press from the jump, or is it kind of like they seize the moment a little bit?
They dictates on the game plan, who they're playing. I would imagine they're going to do what Virginia did and press from the jump. And just try and wear Jacoby down as much as they can. I'm thinking they're going to put Killian Torrier on him, who's a freshman and is a beast defensively. Athletic as hell. Probably has got an NBA future if he learns to shoot. I kind of Meshacky, I would say. Yeah. He's a little smaller than Meshack
for a freshman.
Like, yeah, 6'3", 210, like big guy. And Tamin Lipsey is just a ball hawk. He's led the Big 12 in steals 2 out of his 4 years.
He's also leading steals, leading assist guy for them. He's a senior from Ames. He's been with the program the whole time. Like, he's kind of your classic March point guard. I think that we were all so impressed with how I'm going to forget his name here in the moment, that Florida point guard last year just like commanded the game and
Waller
wasn't
Clayton.
scared of the moment. Yes. And like he wasn't, from Gainesville or anything, but sometimes you need a guy like that in March, and they've got one sitting there. He's not their leading scorer. He's not the do it all. He's not that, but he is I can push it if I need to. I can hold us up and get us in a set if I need to. What that says to me, their defensive prowess, what it says to me, one, Jacoby has to be the guy again, and he absolutely is capable of that. But I don't know many people I would pick over him because he's like the Energizer Bunny out there, and he somehow can go and go and go no matter what. But it's a really important Boswell game because
Mm-hmm.
as not just like we need him to hit shots. Like I think we need some of that presence, but we need guys like Estrella to just dominate. We need Boswell to handle the ball and not be overwhelmed by a press and essentially be that second ball handler, maybe more than he's been all season.
This could be a huge Nate game as well. So if Jefferson's out, and it's been reported that even if he plays, he's going to be severely hobbled, even more so than Nate's been with this ankle injury. Nate's going to have a mismatch because they'll bump up Momcilovic to the 4, and then they bring in a senior, Nate Heisey, who's 6'5", 212. Right there, you're immediately saying Nate's got an advantage with his size where he can shoot over Heisey potentially. And they don't really have another bench guy that does that. Jamarian Bateman, who's a good three-point shooter, he's a freshman. He's only 6'3". They don't have another guy that they can just bring off the bench to be 6'8", 6'9", play a 4. Kind of like Virginia had Devin Tillis. They can play 10 minutes. He's 6'7", 240. So this could be a game where Nate might have, if they put so much pressure on Jacoby and force the ball at Jacoby's handboard, Nate's going to have to take 15, 18 shots like we've seen him do. And hopefully another week rest him up with the ankle.
How does Iowa State attack offensively? I have one in mind that I have seen and I'm a little scared of, but overall, what is their approach other than the counter break and the guards that are pretty athletic?
Yeah, it was very Joshua Jefferson oriented, who's an inside out forward. Jefferson is really good, and he had a great season. He's second team All-American. He averaged 16, 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists per game, 34.5% from 3. He takes a lot of shots. He's not the most efficient player you'll ever see, but he creates, and they like to use him at ISO. What we saw in the Kentucky game is they pushed the pace more. And that's something Iowa State has tried to work on the last month because they had a hard time outside of Jefferson and Lipsy really creating easy buckets. So they've adjusted their pace. The other thing they do is they have Momcilovic is incredible shooter. I mean,
he's a baller, dude.
He has taken 272 threes this year. He's hit 49%. His effective field goal percentage is 67.9%. That's 8th the country. That's insane from a 6'8" wing. Like you usually see those numbers for post players, like centers only that dunk.
He fills it up, man.
Yes, they kind of use him to count, like Jefferson and him. That's kind of what they've been doing is working through Jefferson to get open looks for Momcilovic. Now, the backcourt doesn't really shoot that great. Lipsy's about a 31, 32% shooter. Torre is 30%. He's only taken 82%. They do have Jamarian Bateman, a freshman. He's 38%. So they don't shoot a lot. They don't take a lot of threes. They've run more screening action, and they also ton of inside out play with Jefferson. They pushed the pace more. They focused on Lipsy's drive and kick game a little bit. That's kind of what they've done to adjust to Jefferson. They're playing more team basketball, and with Jefferson's in, they're a little bit easier to stop because they run so much action for him. They run a lot of ISO for him. It's a little bit more multiple and variable now without him. So I'm interested. And the other thing is they don't normally run. Otzelberger's always been slow and steady. They're 204th in tempo, but again, they've pushed it the last month, trying to get some more easy buckets as their half court stuff has kind of bogged down a little bit.
I think it's one of those that, we know Momcilovic is going to shoot, and he's really darn good at it. I think there's part of it that's going to come down to like are Lipsy and Torrey hitting open threes because they're going to get them here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if one of them is just like bottom over and over again, it's going to be really tough because they're going to fill it up. If they're not, if they're a little bit less like just absolute daggers, there's part of me that wonders if the most important comparison or the most important kind of stats to look at the end of the game, and I don't mean to make this just brutally obvious, but if Nate outscores Momcilovic, I don't really see how they would have enough offense to stress us. And not that they're not going to stress us. That's not what I mean. Their defense always will stress us. But if Nate's scoring 27 and Momcilovic is sitting at like 21, I think with our potential offensive rebounding advantage, that would mean really good things for us. If you could just guarantee me that differential from the two kind of star scorers on the teams.
And they're a good defensive rebounding team. They're not a team that, wows you, they're 65th in the country. So Tennessee's going to have this advantage. And that's with Jefferson playing in almost all their games except this last one. When I looked at the box score for Kentucky only had 5 offensive rebounds. That's just not excusable to me. And I think Kentucky had some effort issues in that game. Not going to be an issue for Tennessee. And again, when Iowa State, they're going to put so much pressure on you, you're going to turn the ball over, right? You got to get back. You've got to play your lanes correctly. You can't give up an and one on a bad foul. You've got to make sure that when they use that defensive pressure to try and create offense, you're making the right mistakes. And again, they don't run a lot, but they don't have a problem with you trying to match their running because they're gonna create turnovers. They'll be like, cool, we'll go ahead. We're gonna create 5 or 6 turnovers off this. So I think Estrella's the guy I would look to. Estrella or Nate, to me, are the keys because that 3-4 is going to cause problems to me. If I'm Iowa State, that's my concern. If Nate's hitting his mid-range jumper or Estrella's getting post play, I think that's where I would take advantage of it. I would not try and ask Jacoby to take 25 shots in this game. I don't think that's going to be the good game plan. But if Estrella can get going, stay out of foul trouble, then I think we're going to be okay enough to score. It's going to be tough though. That they are going to play lockdown defense, and again, they don't have a weak defender. All of these guys are going to play their ass off on that side of the ball.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see if we have those stretches where we get bogged down, and like we're a good enough defensive team to survive some of those, but those little like late in the shot clock turnarounds from the post that don't go or they rim out, and if they clean up the boards on those things, then we're gonna have some dry stretches. I feel like, and I can definitely paint a picture of like a couple dry stretches and fast break from them, and then Momcilovic hits the 3, and like suddenly it's an 11-point game, and who's bringing us back if Jacoby's facing physical defense all game? Not that that's going to be a guarantee to happen, but I mean they have a formula to do that, and they also are. They're absolutely good enough to make the Elite Eight. Iowa State is, and so it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, flip a coin. They could go out there and be favored and take care of business. Now, we're totally capable of winning this game. Do you think we're going to win? Do you have a lean yet? Or are you just like, it's late Friday night, let's just see?
There's an interesting note that I want to make. Iowa State's one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country.
I noticed that as well, including their guards. I mean,
they're worse than us by a margin.
They are.
They shot 67.7%.
They're worse than us, and they kind of have. Momcilovic is the only really reliable one.
I mean, he's their only guy above 75%, other than Bateman, who took 33 at 79%.
And he doesn't play nearly as much. Yeah.
No, they're 300th and 13th in the country in points from the free throw line and their point distribution. They're 200th in field goal attempt to field the free throw rate. They don't get to the line a lot. They also don't hit them. Tennessee could absolutely steal this game, going 16 to 22 from the free throw line, and Iowa State going 6 to 10.
Like, make your
I,
free throws, get your offensive rebounds, go up. Yeah.
mm-hmm. And Ohio State's really good about fouling, but if there's a tight whistle, I think that actually favors Tennessee in this game. If Jefferson was full go, I would say this is a really difficult assignment for Tennessee. Jefferson being out makes this a lot easier. And again, even if Jefferson's playing, it might favor Tennessee because their offense becomes more simplified with Jefferson in the game, especially if they're going to have him run full go. If he plays 30, 32 minutes. My gut is telling me Tennessee can pull this off.
Momcilovic hitting 7 threes
Scares me.
is the path to like frustration that I see. And that's the path to us texting back and forth like kind of we had a good run sort of notions to it. But that's he's got to do it. Otherwise, I don't really know what they're doing offensively that's going to get them way out in a way that we can't catch them. Especially if the error bars around that. We always talk about this. If he's just slightly less productive and Boswell or Estrella are the productivity we need, suddenly it is a dogfight to the end, and we can absolutely win a game like that. Because Jacoby absolutely is going to face like physicality for an entire game. He's also a gamer. Like he also is probably better than their guards, even if they're great defensively. And so like there's definitely a world of like not a better defensive team, but we're still a good defensive team. We have a guard in Marsh that we trust a lot. We have the better overall star player probably. We can get to the line. We're more reliable at the line. That's a formula to win in March. And then Iowa State's formula is we have probably the best 3-point shooter in the country and a really good defense, which is not a bad formula either.
Yeah. There is a path where this is like Houston last year, where it's like, oh my God, they can't get the ball inside the arc for 30 seconds. Like there's a path, or Tennessee turns it over 8 times in the first 12 minutes and it goes away quick. But if they play like they did against Virginia, if Bishop Boswell hits 4 threes again, which maybe he's asking a little much, they have an awesome chance to win this game. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. And you kind of look at the advanced numbers, it feels pretty confident for Iowa State, but that's assuming Jefferson plays.
Yeah.
That's not
how those projections are stemming from.
Right. KenPom gives Tennessee a 36% chance. Without Jefferson, that might go up to like 45%, right? So, and the other thing I will say, I think this type of game with a slower pace favors Tennessee because of the free throw advantage. Free throws becoming more of a premium. And I also think Iowa State without Jefferson, if Tennessee guards well for 20, 22 seconds, they can't get Momcilovic open on a screen, try and get him on an elevator set, something like that. Then all of a sudden, I think Iowa State kind of bogs down more, and Tennessee can play defense as long as they stay out on Momcilovic. Like I would just tell, I don't know what the plan's going to be if Jefferson doesn't play. Where you could kind of pull an NBA thing and be like, hey, Akbara, you're going to Traore. If he hits 6 threes, then he hits 6 threes and we'll go home and that's fine. And they move, Boswell on him or something like that. I don't know. I'm curious. Or if maybe Rick says, you know what, we're going 4 out, we're going to match him. That could be the case as well. I think Iowa State's going to win. I think it's going to be down to the wire, though. I absolutely think this could be final minute.
We're at that point in the season, and again, final minute with the differential in free throws and maybe having Nate, like we all would have signed up for that at the beginning of the season and midpoint of the season and SEC tournament play. Like, I think we do need to keep that in mind as we go, that obviously we hope this doesn't turn into this suffocating defense and we're not in it. But if we are in it at the end, then that's just Sweet 16 basketball. I mean, there's no walkovers from here on out. There already haven't been, but there's no walkovers from here on out. And so I think we just need to have in mind, like, this is going to be a dogfight and a really stressful one. And it is hopefully we come through for the opportunity to have another extremely stressful game that follows. And it definitely would be. And so I, I think it's worth thinking about what it looks like if we make it to the Elite Eight. Do you think Alabama has a chance against Michigan? And then do you think anybody has a chance against Michigan in our bracket or towards the Final Four?
Alabama has a chance just because Nate Oates will take 35 threes
And just see what happens.
And try and outmath you. Like that, there is a world where they go 16 of 35 from three, and Michigan goes 6 of 22, and they just outmath. Like that is possible. I think, and I'm going to get called some names from some people. I don't see a path that Alabama or Tennessee can beat Michigan. The only thing I can come up with is Adi Mara gets 4 fouls in 12 minutes, man. Like, that's the only path I see where Tennessee could beat Michigan in the Elite Eight game. And we're going to head with ourselves a little bit, but everything else just point. And the funny part is Mara's gotten in foul trouble so much, Michigan knows how to play without him.
True.
Like, that's part of the negative, but the positive. So it would take a superhuman effort defensively to beat Michigan. But, I mean, it's going to take a pretty damn good effort to beat the Cyclones as well.
That's what I'm thinking is there's no way this team's going to lay down at any point during these games. But it's like if we go pull one out against Iowa State and kind of spoil their run they're going on, because they've got some momentum right now. They played really well in that first weekend.
Mm-hmm.
If we spoil that and then we go make Michigan feel it for a little bit and see what happens, then bring it on. What else are we going to do? You know?
Would be funny if Rick's lowest Tennessee team rank, this is the lowest he's ever had a tournament team at Tennessee, made the Final Four. It would be pretty funny. Have we ever had a big matchup against Michigan in any sport? Didn't we have a bowl game against them or something? That was in 2001, 2002. That was Jason. That's the only time Randy Sanders ever used Jason Witten. I remember that. We did have a big game in 2014, Sweet 16. The block charge call on Jarnell. That was a block that they called a charge. And then I think Michigan beat Bruce in his last game here in the tournament.
I will say, I asked that question for a reason, but I will say us winning and winning a hard fought game against Virginia and then them flashing back to the booth and Bruce Pearl's big dumb head being like, what about the Vols? I was like, I don't need that right now. Don't need that. That actually just completely like poured cold
15
water.
Years ago. 15 years ago, buddy. We're good.
The reason I ask is like, I mean, obviously we want to beat Iowa State, but it does set you up for just like, oh, my team, my other team is potentially going to just chop our heads off here.
Yeah.
And it would be poetic in a way because that had to happen to me when we made the college football playoff.
Right.
Where it was like, hey, this is exciting. Oh, we're going to lose by 30. Interesting. And that is in the cards, at least for this bracket. And again, bring it on. But Michigan is the team when I've watched them this year, I've been like, oh, they're winning.
Yeah. And they have this really weird situation where teams just go like 8 of 10 from 3 to start games as well, and they still win. I would say I think Michigan reminds me a little bit of that 24 UConn team where it was like there really isn't another.
They're just big everywhere. They share the ball the way you need to. Different people doing different things on offense. It's not star-centric, and it just feels like everybody's 6'11". They're just really impressive.
I will say too, this is another take I had from the tournament. Why do I not like Arizona this year? Like, what?
They're boring.
Not like for a personal thing. Like, I don't like them, like coaching or anything like that. I know we had that home and home that was really competitive, those 2 years. But when I watch them, they just don't impress me. And all the numbers say they're awesome. And I mean, you go 34-2, you're obviously a fantastic basketball team. But I just when I watch Duke, I see it. When I watch Michigan, I see it. When I watch Illinois, I see it at times, right? Like or Michigan State even. But like just Arizona, I just don't know what it is. I think because they're just all like solid players. They don't have anything spectacular, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like again, there's nothing you can really point to, but you don't see these like high highs. Like, I don't know, there's times with Illinois where I'm like, how do they ever lose with the way they can score the basketball sometimes?
Right, yeah.
And they lose a lot. And so I don't know. I think that's a very interesting way to think about it. I think we've got some extremely fun Sweet 16 matchups. We always do. It's always the case. But the combination of some of the matchups we have, like in Nebraska, Iowa, and then Tennessee being involved is like it's the most duh statement in the world. But hey, the Sweet 16 is pretty fun. What a concept.
I think I hate saying this. And it doesn't help that they do this stupid 1 game at 2, 1 game at 3, 1 game at 5 setup. That's really dumb. I think the round of 32's almost surpassed the first round now in terms of watchability. You know, it feels like I thought the round of 32 Saturday, Sunday was excellent. I mean, just fantastic basketball throughout. You had the Kansas St. John's game. The Nebraska Vanderbilt game was a classic. I mean, some really good basketball games. And I
are you saying that's better than the opening 2 days?
I think so.
Because of a little bit of the chalkiness?
Yeah, as we've become more chalk now, like, trust me, High Point being Wisconsin was awesome.
Amazing.
Don't get me wrong. Like, it was fantastic. But it's taken this thing out, and I think part of it too is like so many more 10s and 11s are big programs now because of the expansion. Like Texas is an 11, and I've seen some people like, "Oh, Cinderella Texas." Like, shut up! No, that's not.
Did you hear somebody on the broadcast last night said that?
It's like
I forget who the guy was that responded, but someone was like, and maybe they can keep the slipper on. And somebody in the background
it was more, I think, of a tongue in cheek. I think Lapis made it, and it was like in the play-by-play guy, I can't remember who did it. Catalan, it might have been, was like, "Oh, yeah, I wouldn't consider Texas a Cinderella." Lapis really kind of joked about it. It was funny. But I mean, I think this has a chance to be a really excellent Sweet 16. I'm interested in all the matchups other than Texas Purdue. But like all the other matchups I'm interested in. And here's the thing. We kind of talked about it. It would be poetic in a way if a 6-seed Tennessee team, Barnes' worst tournament team that everyone quit on about mid-February, made the Final Four. And I've seen crazier things. I've seen worse teams than this Tennessee team make the Final Four. That South Carolina team that Frank Martin sold the devil to get to. Like, this team's better than them. You know, it's all about the matchups. It's all about how you play. It's all about your 2-guard hitting 4 threes that hadn't hit more than 2 in a game this year. It's things like that make the tournament special.
I will say my final thought. I love the 5 of the last 7, 4 in a row, Sweet 16. If we beat Iowa State, that's 3 straight Elite Eights.
It is.
That is not nothing.
Now, a lot of teams can say they've done that.
And so
this century,
we will be, glued to the TV and probably stressed as hell as we're glued to the TV on Friday night. I almost think it's nice that we get like just a lot of really solid basketball, and then we get to cap it off. I don't want to be like we've already lost and we're kind of out and blah, 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 and then we got to watch all these other games. I like the build-up, but that late slate, especially if there's anything funky in the game before and we're starting that game at like 10:50, it's going to be so interesting how we take it in.
Yeah, that late start is going to be interesting. Could that play a factor? I don't know. It's 9-10 local. Maybe not. But I think the first 5 minutes are going to tell a story. I think if Tennessee comes out and protects the ball, hits a couple threes early, Estrella maybe gets going, something like that, and Iowa State looks discombobulated on offense. I'll say this. If Iowa State goes down double digits, they're not going to beat Tennessee by 19 like they did at Kentucky. That's not happening. They have to start out a lot stronger than they did against Kentucky.
And if we get any kind of like we're up 21-10 or something, it's like, oh, we got a ball game. Like
Absolutely.
we're here. And that's what happened against Virginia, and we did. So I'm super excited for it. I appreciate you guys like taking the ride with us a little bit. Zach, I appreciate you jumping on solo over the weekend. It was
Thank you.
such a good preview. I mean, just to give you props, you nailed kind of the takeaways from the first game and the defensive game plan. I think you nailed the importance of turnovers, and it started to come home to roost a little bit during that stretch where we struggled against Virginia. You had it mapped out really nicely, and I think you do with this game as well. It's just a matter of who hits shots. And so I appreciate you, and I'm very excited to take this game in together, even if we're going to be half asleep.
Hopefully, we're coming on at 12:30 Friday night, Saturday morning, doing a podcast.
I was going to say we already know that if we have punched the tickets to the Elite Eight, we are going to be on recording as soon as that game ends, and doing our version of a post game presser, and we'll have that to y'all before the Elite Eight matchup against probably Michigan. And so we'll see.
Absolutely.
But we'll know the matchup going in, and so if that happens, you can count on us brewing another cup of coffee and jumping on, and we'll have you some quick analysis.
Appreciate you guys listening. Please follow us wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Appreciate it. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for listening, and go Vols.